Next up, we're going to talk about a new NADA podcast. Again, just keeping up with new information, new things. The podcast is called Dealer Driven, and to help me talk more about it, I'd like to welcome up Michael Hayes and Camron Wilson. Michael, Camron, come on up. Welcome, and let's give them a round of applause. All right, hello. Welcome. Good to see you. Please,
Great
come
to
on
see
in.
you.
Come on in. Have a seat here in the living room.
Thank you.
All right, so right off the bat, right? Dealer driven. I see what you did there. I see. I don't know if the pun was intended. I don't know who thought about it, but I appreciate it. So tell me a little bit more about the podcast, maybe why it's called Dealer Driven and what the goal of the podcast is going to be.
Absolutely. So, we want to make sure that we're reaching our members wherever and whenever they have time to learn from us.
Okay.
And a podcast is a great way to reach our members, possibly when they're driving to work or when they're heading home or if they're stopping for coffee, and giving them quick 15 to 30 minute sessions on ways that they can improve their operations right now. So it's all dealer driven.
I love that. Okay, so what it almost reminds me of, and this is the sports head in me, it's kind of like that quick huddle, right? I can go in, I can download, I can get some of the information, I can find out what I need to know, and then I'm charged up. Again, no pun intended, but you see what I did there.
Right.
EV pit charged up.
Yes, charged up.
I'm on it. But I can get charged up, and then now I can go back and take some of that information that I just learned and apply it to my dealer. What about times of the podcast? Is it going to be more live, or is it going to be on demand? How's that going to flow?
All on demand.
Okay.
Yes, we want to make sure that people can access it when they want it.
That's great. So again, I'm thinking about driving into work, getting ready to go. Maybe I'm talking to my team, or maybe I'm kind of problem solving, whatever the case might be. This is a great resource and tool for me to be able to use.
Absolutely.
You mentioned that time frame wise, they're 15 to 20 minutes. Was there a reason in particular that you were thinking about keeping it short and sweet and not, making it long form, podcasting?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the reason is because we're pretty busy people in the car business. I don't know if you caught that yet, okay?
Sometimes.
A lot of things, but very often we find ourselves in the car for 10 or 15 minutes or 20 minutes or things like that. A car, New England, right? But coming down with understanding quick snippets of times that we have to be able to do that. And I think one thing I want to highlight, what we're talking about dealer-driven is the fact that, and you mentioned sports, that's a great analogy. Very often it's about remembering something that is fundamentally sound, but we have stopped doing it and doing it on a regular basis. So our goal is that the people that we're using for this are very much NADA SMEs, subject matter experts, for instance. It's a way for, anybody that's been through the academy or used a 20 group knows the great experience and the professionalism of our consultants and our instructors, but a lot of people don't know that. Yeah. So we're using, almost exclusively with a few exceptions, we are using those subject matter experts to share quick tidbits, because we're talking to dealers every day. We have, 2,500 touches last year with dealer members, people that we serve, to give things ideas to think about. We know this is true, but I haven't done it, or I haven't acted, or I haven't followed through. So it's as much a reminder not to buy software, but to think about, what's my strategy? Am I actually executing it consistently? And those quick snippets are what we're trying to do to make that happen. So if it's too long, it's going to become burdensome. I think everybody can find 15 to 20 minutes of their time to remind me, I should be doing this. I should be full. Am I maximizing those opportunities that we're sharing?
That's great. And also, it sounds like, too, it kind of gives an insight and a resource for tools. So maybe if I'm not necessarily a part of a 20 group, or I haven't had the opportunity to join a 20 group yet, it almost kind of gives me a segue into learning more and being more familiar with some of the concepts that come out of the 20 groups in whole.
Absolutely. So, I know we've talked before on the live stage about all the education that we offer.
Yes.
And a lot of that is live in person or live online.
Okay.
And, so you have to be very specific about when you're attending that class or when you're attending that 20 group. But we recognize that not everybody has that ability right now. And so let's give them smaller bite-sized pieces of our education that they can use and learn from. And then when they have the time, or when they can put themselves in a 20 group or come to the academy, they can get so much more.
That's great. Now, what about from a programming or topic standpoint? Is it going to be kind of more so following trend of what's happening in the industry, or do you have that kind of topic and curriculum already built out to where if I wanted to go check the podcast, I can say, okay, well, in this month they're going to be talking about these things. How is that programming working so that way I can kind of follow along with the podcast and know where we're going?
Well, it's a great question. You know, what happens is that sometimes we see trends are always there, but some things we're going to talk about, oh, goodness, expenses. That's been a trend that's pretty much every month of every year for the 50 years I've been involved in the business, okay?
Yes.
But we are going to be following things like that. Obviously, EVs, obviously AI along that. But we do talk about basic things like time vampires. It's coming out soon. Time vampires in the service department. That's forever. But just thinking about creative ways to overcome that. Thinking about the culture of pre-owned investments and thinking about different things. They're coming in the future, as well as the first one that dropped, which is very much about forecasting for human capital. And one of the most important things that we do, how much time do we actually spend forecasting, developing, and saying our most important asset, but we don't really focus on it as much as we should. So you could say it's the current trend, but quite frankly, a lot of those are repeatable, should we say,
yes,
on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
And the great thing about it is in this form, with all the subject matter expertise that we have in our organization, if, let's say, a new regulation happens or something in the industry happens that we need to get information out on quickly, we have this resource and we could record very quickly a session on, let's say, a new regulation. Let's say the FTC does something, or any of the regulatory organizations publish a rule that we need to let our members know about. We can get the word out with the podcast.
So what you're saying is the podcast is like a quick charge, like a fast charger. See what I did there?
There you go.
Like that,
Right back.
You're really good at this segue stuff.
Sometimes, every now and again, it comes together. You can connect the dots. But the where, right? We've talked about the what the podcast is going to be. But tell everybody about the where they can find it, how they can subscribe. It sounds like there's already an episode that is either out or coming out. So tell us more about the where, so that way they can get some traction and really get behind it.
Sure. So there's already an episode out there, and you can go right to nada.org to subscribe to that, or any of the podcast channels that you already listen to your podcasts on. So if you're a Spotify person, if you're an Apple Podcast person, wherever podcasts are, if whichever app you use, it'll be there.
That's great.
Yep.
So there's no excuse, right? You can find it.
You
All
can
you have to
find
do
it.
is look,
Yep.
and it will be there. You can find it. That's
Yep.
great. And then before we go, we've got about a minute left. Has there been any, let me ask you this, feedback-wise, if someone is in the industry and maybe they want to hear about a topic, or maybe they have questions on something, is there a way for the audience to then kind of reach in and say, hey, can you guys think about talking about this?
Yeah, automotive people are usually pretty good about sharing their thoughts and ideas, right? So the way right now, and I'm not sure there is online, Camron can answer that, the way is to get hold of either one of us.
Okay.
We're listed on the website, our email contacts on the website, our phone numbers are on the website. One thing that we know that we do is we serve the members, NADA is the members' organization. It's a nonprofit organization. We serve the members. We work for the members here, so we know who our employers are, for lack of a better term, and we exist to serve them, and they have full access to our entire team, both on the 20 group side and on the academy side.
Yeah, I think that's great. And then before we head out, is there any other best takeaways or anything that, another push for the podcast of anything that they should know out there? Like when you listen to this podcast, we know you're going to walk away with short content that's impactful, but anything else before we head out?
It's fun.
I love that.
This is a fun business.
Right.
We'll laugh. We'll have fun.
That's a very, very good point, because I think
Cameron and I know how to have fun.
Right.
I love that. I think that's a great point. So not only do you get the education piece, but you're also going to get the entertainment piece to walk away with the education as well. So thank you both for being here. I look forward to hearing and listening to the podcast myself, because I think it's always great information. So I'm excited as well. So
Thank you so
again.
much. Yes, thank you for having us.
My pleasure.